So I guess the first port of call, I suppose, for you, Pino, is of being a Leeds United fan. How were the celebrations last week from being a fan?
Yeah, I mean, good. It's just, going up as champions is like, it's the number one thing, isn't it? Like, going up was important a few weeks ago. So we went down to Ellen Road on that match. How was it? They played at lunchtime. And then we all went, and it turned out thousands of people had the same idea to go down, because like these unofficial celebrations started. And it was like, we've had so much drama in the playoffs, and it's just like, no, not again, please, And it didn't happen, we knew we were going up, and it was like, oh, we've done it. And it's always weird, like it's almost like it's not quite real, There's a little bit of like stunned sort of silence of kind of like, oh, we've actually done it. We're generally going back to the Premier League. So yeah, and for Leeds, like everyone talks about Leeds being the biggest club that's not in the Premier League, pretty much, And it feels right to be back there. Can't wait for next season.
Funny, Simon showed us a video from the parade. He got a posh balcony from the view.
As you know, Simon has connections at Leeds United and does his podcast and stuff.
Right, yeah,
and he had shot a video and like he'd waited 2 hours for the bus to come, and you see the bus coming in shot.
That tiny front of it.
Tiniest bit. As soon as it comes in, it's just a wall of smoke in front of him.
Blue and yellow.
And then by the time it disappears, the bus is gone.
yeah. I mean, for a city this size, to have, was it nearly 100,000, 150,000 people in there?
Yeah.
That's special, right? Not many cities would have that. I mean, you see the Sunderland bus coming down the other week, had about 4 people outside the bus. And I don't mean that in disrespect for Sunderland, but like, there's a difference to, like a Leeds or a Newcastle where they have just such a heritage of fans that are just
and it's locked into the city. It's part of the city, isn't it? It really is. And it feels right. It finally feels time. And I feel like we've gone up in a good way. Getting 100 points.
Of course,
winning the league. It's like fair credit to Burnley getting 100 points and coming second. That doesn't normally happen here. You get 100 points to come second. So it feels like two strong teams have gone up, and we'll see what August brings.
Absolutely. And do you think we'll move on from the Leeds United thing obviously shortly, but do you think obviously they've got a really good chance of staying up next year?
Yeah, I think it feels like a strong team has gone up. Obviously we need to strengthen it a bit more, I think, but it feels like it was the right team that went up. You know what I mean? We've tried before, we've been up and down, so we've had playoff drama and things like that. So I think, I'm never going to say no. I was, because I believe, as a Leeds supporter, then you got to believe, haven't you? So hopefully there's a bit more investment coming in, a bit more money released to just strengthen the squad a bit. Because we've all seen Premier League football. It is a different pace, a different quality, isn't it? So absolutely. I think the club stands, even like business point of view. If you can keep Leeds in the Premier League, surely there's loads of money for everyone to be made, right?
No, absolutely.
So it feels like the right thing.
Obviously, just going on to the band, obviously switching to it slightly, evidently. Obviously, 20 years on from employment, obviously debut album and all that. What's it feel like 20 years on, and how does it feel like that, because the album is still so important to at least local society, but in the international society as well, sorry?
It's good, yeah. 20 years, it's like we were talking just before we started filming, we were talking about kind of how certain things, 20 years can seem a long time, like, I've not seen you in 20 years, like that's a long time to not see someone. But then to do this for 20 years is like, it feels like yesterday in a way, I'm forgetting certain things, and I used to because I remember all the gigs and all the, what we'd done. But like, it's just been pretty constant for us, and like VJ here, it's been like 13 years in the band, that's a long time. That's well over a decade in the band, absolutely. in our like second phase, or our sort of 2.0 sort of thing. And you're just like, it's a real privilege to do what we do. And I feel very lucky and very grateful that I get to do what I do for a job.
It's really fluid as well. You never know what's going to happen, because obviously trends change and people always think they know what's going to happen, or they think they know what music people are going to like, and you don't know. Mm-hmm. And it's just nice to see that throughout the years, see the huge initial spike, see it kind of stick around, weather the storm, and then start growing again and finding new people and finding a new lease of life. And it doesn't mean the same as it did back in the early 2000s, because you're a buzz band and there's the hype and whatever else. But eventually, when you sort of see it ingrained into British society, and also just like people knowing it around the world, it's a really, really good thing. Something that, I don't know, you almost feel, you start to feel more proud of it the longer it
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
on.
longevity
Yeah.
sort of thing definitely makes you feel like, yeah, we're doing the right thing here. We'll stay on course, you know. And going back to the football thing a little bit, there was an Instagram thing where around a reel, and it was Japanese fans singing
Yeah.
"I Predict," Japanese Leeds United fans singing "I Predict a Riot" in a bar in
Yeah, I was
Osaka,
going to mention, yeah.
And you're like, things like that are kind of like, that's cool, isn't it? Yeah, that'll do, you know. Who would have thought that 20 years ago?
Yeah, and do you think it's also important as well from a band, from your point of view, is that you got there before the real social media hype? So you obviously, album sales, things like that. Obviously, you know, we all know that the social media hype now kind of does hype a lot of bands on, but you were there before that, if you like. So that must be a little bit more important as well, because you got not so much, I don't mean real fans, but obviously you got the CDs and obviously the vinyls and all these things that came before that. That must be quite important as well.
I think so. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, really, because I think it's, like I said, that's a long-term thing as well, where there's been times where you're just a bit like, oh, it would have been good to be like an internet band, because that's almost perceived as new generation and
Yeah, of
whatever
course.
else. But then there's something about being slightly more analog where it almost seems to be embedded in people's souls and minds. And also you have to build yourself as a live act rather than just rely on, like you say, viral moments or a track being playlisted or whatever, because those things are great, but they come and go. As we all know, I mean, something crazy, like over 100,000 songs are uploaded onto Spotify daily. I mean, how do you break
how do you
through
stand
against
out?
that?
Yeah, how do you
how
stand
do you
out
break
there?
through that noise?
Yeah.
And so there is a part of you that thinks, oh, do you know what? It would have been great to be a huge, huge streaming band, but there's something even better to be kind of like, all right, so we're that live band that everyone likes.
Yeah,
and we've
of
got
course.
those songs that everyone knows. And there's something that feels really good about that.
Yeah,
It'll be nice to have like a multi-billion streaming.
of course. Won't go into the Spotify thing, I don't think. But no, and what's it like? Obviously, you mentioned it just briefly there, but what is it like having your tracks played at the box? And I know for Josh Boyd and all these people, but obviously WWE as well. So that must be quite important, because obviously you get your tracks played in different areas there, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's a way of like reaching people, isn't it? You know, like when we started out, you do little gigs, you build up a little buzz. Or something. I saw this band in London last night. Yeah, the Kaiser Chiefs were really good, you know. And then we go to Nottingham. Oh yeah, I'll tell my mates in Nottingham to go see them. And you can kind of see how the little sort of seeds are there. You know, like one person tells two people, you know, and you can see how it spread in those early days. And then you get to the stage where, like you say, WWE and things like that are using the music, and you're like, that is a way to get your music in front of new people that you might never have reached.
How does that work? Do you know what I'm asking? Like, how does it work? Do they come to you to say, well, we're going to use your track, or?
Yeah. I think you I mean,
sometimes
talking
you
industry
can.
chat a little bit too much here, but like your publisher's job is to get your music out there, you know?
Yeah.
So you have a publishing deal, and their job is to, you know, find a film that you go to or a TV show, or maybe they know somebody who works in WWE and go, oh, you know what, just try these guys when you're next doing an edit or whatever. I don't know exactly how it works.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's
I mean,
kind of,
I mean, it does happen organically as well, where
people-
someone hears it and goes,
they hear it,
that'll be
that'd be
good.
really good for
and
my
then
next-
they'll approach people and
Yeah,
whatever
I
else.
suppose it's good
I'm
for
doing.
people that are listening in sound when they get the tracks out there a little bit. You know, it is nice to hear. But obviously, yes, of course, we will move on to obviously the Tampa Museum gig. Obviously, 20 years on, what we expected from this gig, and what was the curation of bringing the lineup supporting you on?
well, I guess the 20-year thing is, yeah, it's as we're going to be playing like Employment, the album in full, like sort of in order, which is quite, we've never done that before.
Right.
So it's quite weird because lots of songs are in different places to where we'd ever normally put them in a set. So we kind of got to deal with that. And then we'll play we've got a load of hits to play afterwards and stuff.
Of course.
So that's our kind of bit of the day. But we feel like that's like the end of the day, you know, that's the end of the day. It's a long day. And we've got loads of bands who are Cribs and Razor Light and We Are Scientists stuff coming, who are all playing like debut records or records from around like 2005, 2006. So doing that same thing, you know, playing a record as you would listen to the CD and to the vinyl, and then play some of the other hits as well. So it's kind of cool to invite, like the Cribs and We Are Scientists were on tour with us quite a lot in the early days, definitely. Probably like 2005, 2006. I would say it's hardly at all where one of them wasn't on the support with us, which is nice. And they're good friends of ours. And then Razor Light, we used to see them around the world. You bump into them in Japan somewhere, you know, sort of like in America, like, oh yeah, Razor Light on the bill, you know? So you build your little touring friends, your little touring buddies, you know?
Razor
So
Light's,
it's really cool to have like a day where it's kind of like, this is now like the celebration of that era, you know?
Razor Light toured with us recently as well, and
nice.
it just worked really well.
Yeah.
I think the two of us worked really well together.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I guess there's two ways to go with something like this when you're playing a big event. You either decide to go contemporary and just enjoy and more contemporary and modern, whatever's going on in the scene at the moment, or this is a great opportunity to celebrate what was like an amazing scene. Do you know, you don't realise it at the time. You think that like these kinds of things happen all the time, but being in and around Leeds and whatever.
The pre-internet, right, it was like the last, 2005, 6, 7 was the last of like big multi-million selling albums.
Yeah.
And like sort of world tours and things like that. He definitely is a different, I mean, for better or worse, it's definitely different now how you break music.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's cool to sort of.
Yeah, definitely. And it was just like something that was just like, it just felt like anything was possible at that time. And even being on the sort of like smaller local scene to kind of playing bigger places and whatever else, it just felt like anything was possible, and everyone together was celebrating at the same time. So it felt like a really good opportunity to do the same thing again, where, everyone can kind of relive it for a bit.
And Temple Newsome, was that always the venue that you wanted to choose? Or obviously I know you played pretty much all over Leeds, but was that the one that was like you were set on for this one?
Yeah, we wanted like a good outdoor gig, and Temple Newsome kind of lends itself to that. And now, like, obviously Leeds Festival isn't there anymore, it's up at Bramham, that's a bit far out and stuff, Temple Newsome still feels good, kind of local Leeds, but you can play to tens of thousands of people, which is cool.
Yeah.
A nice big house on the hill, so it's kind of like, there's a band, I was at like Nebworth in 95, kind of thing, with the house on it. I remember the house on the hill thing, kind of like, right.
It's quite it's iconic, isn't it? And so
absolutely.
It's like there's very few places in Leeds that we haven't played now.
Yeah.
And not that, you want to just go around and ticking things off, but it just feels like, wouldn't that be a nice moment to play Temple Newsome? And so, yeah.
I think it's important to me to ask you what you think of the current Leeds scene in terms of, grassroots and stuff like that. I think that's quite an important thing to ask a band of your caliber. What do you think of the grassroots scene, and can it be developed even further? And what would you think to how it could be improved?
I think that one of the things you see from looking back like 20 years, and kind of like this year that we're in a moment where we're sort of celebrating employment and stuff, then you can't help but sort of think back, like, there are a lot of venues in Leeds now, but interestingly, a lot of the venues that we played when we were younger and coming up and getting little support acts here and there, they're not there anymore. And I worry that they're not being, maybe there are new venues, small venues, but, like the grassroots type venues and sort of intermediate venues where, like, we supported Franz Ferdinand at the Cockpit and our third gig or something, or second gig. Stuff like that. And I worry sometimes that, the squeeze of the arts and the pinch of arts and culture and funding is making it more difficult for people from any background to access music and sort of get involved in music or go to a recording studio or put a gig on. And you worry that it's becoming the sort of enjoyment of the elite, So it's kind of like the Leeds scene does feel good though, it does feel, I know Simon, he manages some bands and is involved in kind of like little launch pad type initiatives and stuff I think, because we recognise the fact that maybe it is harder to get into music now, not least because the number of people doing it and the way the algorithms work, and like you're just lost in this in the little people. But it used to be like the little people were still cool and could still do their own thing and have their own, have your own little night or indie night or a DJ night or something where members of bands met and stuff like that, and it was really cool. And the next day, like a new band was formed almost. It's kind of important to keep those dreams alive, because that's where the bands come from, is those like drunken conversations or dancing to some music that you all like in a club or a sweaty bar or something.
Yeah.
So, I think it's different, isn't it? I mean, like it is quite hard to ask us because it's been such a long time since we did that. But Peanut's absolutely right. Where everyone formed and where the buzz happened and whatever was in specific spots at specific times. There was a time where, I don't know, Joseph's Well was the place. And it wasn't going just to see the gig.
It's a band
incubator. It was all day and all night. People from different bands would all be there talking and whatever else. And then that's where it all happened. And that sounds really old school now. And I'm guessing it is a long time ago. And so like that probably isn't how music is formed now. But they're two totally different things, as in grassroots venues and what the scene's like. That's what I think. I think there are probably loads of scenes going on, but they're probably virtual and probably, a lot more pre-constructed before it even happens, or maybe a lot of music is made in bedrooms and stuff. You don't need to go into studios, and so a lot of it's happening electronically. That doesn't mean that a scene's not there. I mean, I'm pretty sure if I said to a 14-year-old, "Oh, in my day we had like some amazing scenes," they'll be like, "All right, granddad, well, we've got loads of great scenes going on here." So it's a different thing. Unfortunately, the virtual world, I guess, means that the grassroots venues don't get the people hanging out there all day and drinking and eating food and chatting and getting a buzz, and then that place thriving. So they're two different things. So honestly, I really don't know what the Leeds music scene is like there. But one thing we all know is small venues are closing. That's awful.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously with you, what was your first memory of being with the Kaiser Chiefs like? What was that like first gig for you like? Because obviously there must have been a bit of a daunting experience at the time when you first started.
Do you know what? There's an amount of trauma amnesia with all of that. Because I first... with that when I got home, and I remember not saying much, going upstairs, and I collapsed on the bed and I didn't wake up for 5 hours.
Yeah. So pretty daunting.
That was pretty daunting. But then gig-wise, I mean, I don't know whether it's just my own mind or everyone's like this or whatever, but ultimately I was drumming for such a long time and I knew what I was doing. So big crowds and stuff didn't daunt me.
When you first, so we did those gigs in like Holland and stuff.
Yeah, we did a couple of small. Well, I say smaller, about 2,000 in Holland.
But then we went
straight to Brazil.
Yeah.
For Lollapalooza.
Lollapalooza in Brazil. It was like
70,000
people.
Oh yeah.
For like his third gig.
That was third gig. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. You say well now, yeah, but I'm pretty certain you were in a different state of mind.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, again, but I do remember that gig though. I remember the long walk to the stage, and as you gradually walked, you saw the crowd get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I remember that, and that gig's actually online. I'm playing a lot faster than I should be doing. But yeah,
how were the band supportive of you when you first started? Well, obviously I'm guessing they were, but what was it like just coming into the band? And...
These guys, yeah, it was dead legs and nuggies and wedges. I had to give my lunch money for the first 2 months.
But I think it's like, because when we were looking for a drummer, we found VJ. It was like, VJ was like the first choice because we knew he was a good drummer from seeing him in Leeds bands like Club Smith and The Hair. And we were friends with it. We knew his brother as well. So we knew VJ sort of by association there and sort of hang out in the same groups. But like, there was the fear of like, well, if it's not VJ, we're gonna have to advertise for someone, And that'd make a really different dynamic because we knew 2 or 3 of us in the band knew VJ beforehand anyway. So it made it a bit better. So when it worked out, it was kind of just like, right, fine, let's get going. There wasn't really a bedding in period because I already knew you as a friend, and obviously sort of much better friends now, having spent 20 years sort of working together. But like, yeah, it was. I'm thankful that it worked out because otherwise it might have been that sort of like hired a drummer for a couple of years and he wants to do something else and we have to get another drummer. And I think the band would have been very different, but whereas VJ kind of slotted in really easily. So in terms of the support, it was like he'd always been there sort of thing. It wasn't like a battle to kind of shape him into our way or our mold or anything like that because like he was already kind of pre-molded.
Yeah, I think like it was already. I think it helped like cutting your teeth in the same city at the same time. Knowing the same thing, having the same references. So sort of like transitioning is quite easy, and also like. I've been in sort of about 4 or 5 bands, different iterations, same members or whatever, but about 4 or 5 bands. Maybe even more than that, actually, before Kaiser's. And I was always the replacement drummer. I've never started a band with anyone. I've always replaced someone in all the things. So I'm really good at going into a new group of people.
Well, that's amazing.
And enjoying it.
To its own extent, yeah, of course. Absolutely. Obviously, I know you've have a history in photography. Are you looking to document the next tour or the 20th anniversary in some way?
Yeah, I think I'll continue to document as I have done in the past. To kind of like a triple A, fly on the wall. That's what I like being really. It's kind of like, I'll definitely post people sometimes, VJ, just sit there a minute or just, something stand there, but at the same time, what I actually like is just documenting what's going on day to day.
Yeah.
And then being in the band, traveling the world has given me an amazing kind of like, not a canvas, but an amazing kind of palette to choose from of a way to take pictures, because every day I'm in somewhere different, which is quite good. So Temple Newsam, I think if I get my act together, then I'll take like enough cameras and do portraits of people and stuff. It'll be a good day. And maybe like the Cribs and Raise Light stuff and We Are Scientists, they'll probably up for having some pictures taken. It'll be a good document to look back and shoot it all on film, so it'll look good.
Absolutely, yeah. And just obviously, just going back onto the event itself, obviously, did you ever feel pressure of living up to the Employment album and then moving forward, obviously, after that? And what's next for you after this?
After Employment, it was kind of like, the year and a half that we toured Employment pretty much, from when things started to take off. And we talk about Joe's as well. We did a little tsunami benefit gig thing at the beginning of 2005. Remember that? And after that, like, our feet just didn't touch the ground really for the rest of the year. It was crazy. And so we got to and I think it's a cyclic thing that goes on in bands where you tour for a bit because you want to play your songs you've written and new hits, whatever, and play those. And then you tour for a bit, like, right, bored that now, I want to go write some new music. So it's like a cycle, one feeds the other, So we came off tour with Employment, and it was kind of like, right, time to do a record. And we went away for the summer and did a record with Stephen Street down near Reading somewhere. And yeah, it was like, and that record had like Ruby and Angry Mob on it and Everything's Average and some other stuff I can't remember. So we had like lots of singles straight away, coming out, which felt pretty good. So it kind of, again, just felt continuous, It was kind of like, right, just keep going. And then by the time the record was finished, it was like, right, go out and do some like little small gigs as a warm-ups, and back out on tour again. And before you know it, it's festival season the following summer, which is how our life and our kind of career has gone. So after, that's for this, we've got quite a bit of like employment related touring going on. I think we'll be going sort of more far-flung places around the world, because the album did good in lots of, lots of places around the world, which is kind of nice it's nice for us to go and celebrate it, but it's nice to go and celebrate it for the fans as well, who helped us put us on the map, I think there's very much a lot to be said for kind of recognising like the contribution that the fans have to our success. It's not, you can't just make an album and go, that's a brilliant album. The public decide if it's a brilliant album or not. And they did with Employment, which is really good. So before you knew it, we were in Australia playing with Foo Fighters, whatever, and playing with U2 in stadiums in Europe and stuff like that. So and we gained loads of fans in those places. Yeah. So it'd be nice to go back out there and kind of say, hey, thanks for the support, Is
there a song that has evolved most off the album in the last 20 years for the fans that you've played it to?
I don't know really. Oh My God always is something that ends the shows usually.
Good closer.
So that's it's almost become slightly ritualistic, that. Mm-hmm.
I Picked a Riot. So it was a big song at the time, right? It was a big song, and you played at festivals, went off and stuff, it was all great. And then we started to notice a few years ago, like younger kids, sort of 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, like kids that might go to a festival or to a race course with their parents maybe, or they might just be going to the first gig on their own. Definitely the front row was full of people that weren't old enough to be into the song the first time, other than they had on the stereo at home or maybe in the car on the way to school, that sort of thing. So you realise that things do take on like a new life, like we were talking about, like Employment is becoming sort of ingrained into a bit of sort of British society and culture. And I Picked a Riot has definitely sort of reached a new audience, I think, and another new audience.
Yeah, because when I first started playing, Ruby was the big song. Wherever we went, Ruby was the big one. Yeah. Then gradually over time, Riot's overtaken it.
Yeah, which is weird. I never thought that would happen. I knew I Picked a Riot was a big song, but never thought that there might be actually in decades like a shift actually goes on. It's really cool.
And you just mentioned some bands that obviously you've kind of been on tour with or cross paths with. Is there any band that you're like, whoa, that was pretty overwhelming to see those guys and meet them?
I can't. When you're in the middle of it all, you sort of get on with it, But like,
and then they come over to you going, oh my God, you're the Kaiser Chiefs. That might come quite good.
I remember when we toured with the Foo Fighters, it was like summer 2005, I think, yeah? So I think it's right, it'd been out a few months. And Dave and Taylor had heard it on the radio. Or they were talking, they told us they'd heard it and were talking about it and said some nice things about the song. to us, and then that's what led to the support tour, you know, with them and Weezer in North America, and then they invited us to Australia at the end of the year, and then a bit of them when you was they invited us down to South Africa
and South America.
So it's really cool, like because Foo Fighters are a great band, and obviously, and we sort of grew up on obviously like Nirvana and stuff like that, and so getting to see the Foo Fighters and just hanging out with them all the time, you're like, yeah, these are cool guys, they're good guys, but they're an amazing band and do have some brilliant songs.
I mean, it was like like Peanut says, in the moment it is what it is, but then there are times where you just sort of pinch yourself, because Dave Grohl was one of the reasons I started playing drums in the first place. So then I always remember once when you guys first went on tour, Simon said to me, do you want me to get his autograph or something? And in a weird way, I know this sounds so cheesy, but I just said, like, do you know what? I don't, because if I meet him, I want to meet him as a peer. I don't want to meet him as like fanboy guy. And then like years later, I got to meet him, and then that was nice. But then what's really funny is that we got a photo taken, them and us, it was somewhere in South America, I can't remember where. And then it was like, oh, that was good. And then when I saw the picture afterwards, subconsciously, I'm doing exactly the same pose as Dave Grohl. And it's really embarrassing. Something in my head was a bit like, oh, I want to be this guy.
What's it like signing all the autographs? Do you enjoy all that sort of thing as well? Like,
well, again, do you see, my take on all that is like, it's a fan, people want your autograph. That is the ultimate flattery, isn't it? And kind of like, that means they're a fan of your band and they value your time.
Yeah, of course.
And therefore, I'll always give the time to people, to do that, because it's like, there's no need to be arsey about it,
Yeah.
Obviously, sometimes when we're releasing your record, you got to sign like 1,000 album covers. You're like, it's like
no look.
Yeah, we have like a production line. Slide along to each other. Like,
it's good. It's a sight to behold.
I don't know what albums per hour rate is. It's pretty good, isn't it? It's pretty good.
There's a technique, and there's about a 1.5 second drying rate.
Yeah, because the Sharpies dry pretty quick.
Yes.
Yeah. But you can't do it too fast. You can't be smudging,
I don't know. I don't sign enough.
These are things you can learn by watching us talk.
I hate signing t-shirts because I've never
got to stretch them right in.
You need some wingman to do that. It
depends on your letters. I did P for a bit. It always jumps on.
Yeah, it does.
Whereas if you've just got like a more, I don't know.
If you've got loads of L's and it's just straight down, that'll be easy. But as soon as you start doing right angles, the whole thing
you might get it snags up and you're like, oh, fuck that.
Fun question before we end. It's a personal question if you like, but one song you wish you'd written that you didn't.
Wow. Jesus. I mean, so on the spot, the first song that came to my head was God Only Knows, Beach Boys. I mean, you listen to that song, you listen to it again, you listen to it more in depth, you're like, musically it's bonkers, and then sentiment-wise as well, it's just beautiful, isn't it? So like, what a song to write.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything by Scott Walker.
Oh, fair there. There you go then. There you go. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
And I hope the good goes well. We're coming down anyway, aren't we? So we'll see you there.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Right.
Cheers.